We all come to a story with hopes and expectations, searching for meaning, for closure. But sometimes, hope is the better lie, the kind you can leave with it, the kind that doesn't crumble under the weight of the truth. 3 years. That's how long it took to finally stare down the monster who took everything from me. My body betrayed me, trembling like a leaf in a storm, but anger kept my hands steady. The gun was an extension of my rage, and the bullet was a freight train with one destination. The barrel lined up perfectly, right where it needed to be. I waited for this moment for so long, and now it was all over. I've always wanted to make a video about Max Payne, so I follow my usual video essay routine before deciding, checking all the platforms where the game is available for purchase, and Max Payne was no different. The game was first released in July 2001 for PC, and later that year, in December, it launched on PS2 and Xbox. Unfortunately, the PS2 version was significantly downgraded due to the console performance limitations. Max Payne was simply too much for it to handle. In June 2002, the game received a Mac version, and to my surprise, I discovered that in 2012, it even got a mobile port. With so many versions of Max Payne out there, I thought diving into this classic would be easy. A quick search, a click, and boom, I'll be blasting through New York's grimy streets in no time. But how naive I was. My first instinct was to do what all PC players usually do, see if the game was on Steam. And it was. Jackpot. But not really. As soon as I got to the Steam page, there is this message about some sort of agreement with Rockstar. I'm using a screenshot here because as I'm writing this video, I can no longer access the game via Steam. It's long gone, but just a few days ago, I could still access the page, although there wasn't any way to buy the game. I looked left, right, hoping to find a lucky answer until I saw that golden agreement message shining in the corner of my eye, like it was mocking me for not letting me play the game. So I copied the message and I went to Google, hoping to uncover some clue about this mysterious agreement with Rockstar. Sadly, my efforts were all in vain, until I had an obvious idea. How had I not thought about this sooner? Back then, the first 2 Max Payne games were developed by Remedy, but published by Rockstar. Later, Rockstar bought the rights to the franchise and made the 3rd game and final installment. With this realization, I felt like I was simply missing the obvious. I could just download the Rockstar launcher and buy the game there. I was a genius. I thought I already solved the puzzle, cracked the game wasn't there either.
You can't win this one, Max.
No.
I was backed into a corner with nowhere to go. Sure, I could just play another game and make a new video, but I've already covered other Remedy titles. Max Payne is such an important game, I had to find a way. I sat down in bed for a few minutes, weighed my options. I could try emulating the game or maybe revive my old PlayStation 2 and hunt down a copy of Max Payne. Yeah, that's actually a great idea. So I hopped back on my computer and started searching. To my surprise, I found plenty of copies. Nice, right? Until I realized they were all priced over $200. Ugh. Okay, what if I emulate the game? That idea felt a bit off. There's nothing inherently wrong with emulation, but I really wanted to play the PC version, which is the most complete one. I decided to discard the idea entirely, but I kept that as a last resort. I just couldn't believe I couldn't play Max Payne. If I go to Steam, I can easily buy the 2nd and 3rd games, but not the 1st. What actually happened that makes this game unavailable? I spent a good part of my day researching until I remember something. One of my friends streamed the game months ago. I reached out to him, hopeful but cautious given all my previous dead ends. But he soon told me that he downloaded the game through other methods. But here's the kicker. He couldn't remember which link he used, and to top it all off, he said it was hard to find a link that wasn't loaded with viruses. Oh god, this was so frustrating. All that I wanted to do is play a game from 2001. It made me think about how much I respect companies like GOG for their efforts in game preservation, bringing attention to the importance of keeping these games alive. We can afford to lose titles like this, games that shape not just the industry but also ourselves and our culture. I was baffled. I had spent 3 days searching for a game, refusing to accept that I couldn't buy for some reason. Then I had an idea. Why not retrace my steps and start over? Maybe I missed something. A link, a Reddit post explaining how to buy the game. There had to be something I overlooked. I went back to the Steam page, this time combing through every detail more carefully. And then it hit me. I had missed something. Wow, I'm such a dork. Steam has a feature that shows which friends have wishlisted or own a game. To my surprise, I had one friend. A kind soul, a fellow tarnished, the light at the end of the tunnel. Not only that, but I knew he liked watching my videos. A win-win situation, right? I was finally so close to playing this freaking game. So I messaged him. Hey, how are you? Just a random question. How the fuck did you buy Max Payne? And to my surprise, he answered very quickly. But unfortunately, my small glimmer of hope was immediately crushed when he explained that I wouldn't be able to buy it. He told me he had purchased a bundle years ago, but now was no longer available. That was it, the final blow, the nail in the coffin. If I was feeling hopeless before, now I was utterly defeated. I started to think about just letting it go. I had plenty of other video ideas, but I really wanted to make this video. As we kept chatting, he sent me a link to a website called myabandonware.com, a place where you can download games no longer available for purchase. I learned that day that Max Payne was considered abandonware. That realization made me a bit sad. Still, at least I had found a trusted site. I sat down for a while, thinking over, and decided to surrender. You know what? I would just download the game. I click on the website, search for Max Payne, and within seconds, there it was, easy to find. I scrolled down through the brief description and a gallery of screenshots. Then, I saw it. A buy the game button instead of a download option. Wait, I was confused. I kept scrolling and came across the following message. Max Payne is available for a small price on the following website and is no longer abandonware. You can read our online store guide. Wait. The game's still available for purchase? How? I've gone to hell and back and didn't find a single shred of evidence to prove otherwise. I was missing something. Or I was just dumb for not being able to buy it? And it wasn't just me. My friends couldn't find anything either. It was late at night, and I decided to call it a day. I figured I'd watch some YouTube videos before bed. Not the greatest idea, but I was just massively confused and disappointed. I was watching some video essays when one of them had a sponsorship segment talking about something called gaming keys, codes you could buy on third-party websites to unlock games on platforms like Steam or Epic. The moment that I heard that, my brain clicked. I quickly connected dots. I went back to Google and spent the next hour desperately searching for any chance of getting a Max Payne key. To my surprise, I found not just a few, but a plethora of keys. But, of course, there was a catch. All the available keys didn't work in specific regions, including mine, Brazil. It almost felt satirical when you consider that Max Payne 3 is set in Brazil. Still, I didn't give up. This time, I felt closer than ever. I was determined to search key by key until I found this fucking game. I spent a few more hours digging until I thought, now that I know the game is blocking my country, let's see if Brazilian forums have anything useful. And it didn't take long before I stumbled upon a video of someone explaining how to buy Max Payne. For the first time, I felt a spark of hope. The video included a link that had been recently updated. Finally, after almost 4 days of scouring every corner of the internet, asking ChatGPT if I was crazy for not being able to find a copy, and enlisting my friends to help me search, I had found my golden goose. Relief and excitement flooded me. I was so ready to play Max Payne. Every second and every bullet in this game would count. I quickly made an account on the website, added a digital credit card, and placed the key in my cart. It felt like Christmas morning. I was just one click away from ending this exhausting journey. Are you shitting me? At this point, it felt like an out-of-season April Fool's joke. This was impossible. I was so close. Yet, here I was, hitting another wall. I couldn't believe it. And to be honest, I wasn't ready to give up. No, not when I'd come this far. I kept searching for keys. Like I said, I was determined to check key by key if that's what it took. There was no way I was going to let this setback shake me. This error message became the fuel that I needed to keep going. So I went through dozens of other websites, only to be greeted by the same frustrating message over and over again. This key is not available in your country. Each time the disappointment hit harder, but I refused to let it stop me. My God, is this true? Can I buy this? Wait, oh shit, I can buy this! Finally, oh my God, in the darkest corner of the internet, I saw a small beacon of light. There it was, a global key I could finally purchase. But there was one last barrier. The seller didn't have any reviews, and neither did the key itself. So I turned to my ever-reliable companion, the internet, and started researching. And I found plenty of people claiming they've been scammed, stories of buying keys only to have Steam reject them, or even worse, the game disappearing from their libraries after activation. I have to admit, I was scared. I sat down and thought about it. To be honest, the key was cheap. The worst case scenario was losing a few bucks, and I figured I could live with that. All the roads I traveled so far led to this very moment. With no other options, I decided to take the gamble. I bought the key, opened my email, and waited. I refreshed my inbox faster than a shopping addict on Black Friday adding items to their cart. For a moment, I thought I've been scammed. People say they received their keys almost instantly, but my inbox remained silent. Not even a spam email showed up. That night felt endless. Exhausted and defeated. You know what? I finally accepted my loss. So I shut down my computer, and then I went to bed. Wait, God, I'm so fucking dumb. You wouldn't believe, but I missed the #1 rule of having an email. Always check your junk folder. And to my surprise, there it was. But I didn't jump to any conclusions just yet. I opened the email, grabbed the key, copied the serial number, and added to Steam. And then... oh my God, it worked. I boot up the game and play for the next hour, half expecting the game to disappear from my library at any moment or for some other issue to pop up. But after a few days... yes, I finally finished the game. Not once, but twice, and was already geared up for a third playthrough. What a relief. I still couldn't believe that I finally had this game in my library. I went through so much for a game from 2001 that shouldn't have been this hard to buy. It's funny, right? All that just to give money to the company. Maybe I'm just a fool, but I don't care really. This should be a wake-up call, not just for Max Payne, but for other games that are considered abandonware. We need to preserve these titles, and companies should be held accountable for this. But there it is. After all the effort, I could finally play Max Payne. And you might be asking, was it worth it, all the trouble? Well...
"3 years. It's a funny thing. Time. How it drags when you're drowning and flies when you've forgotten how to swim. The windows in my apartment don't show the word anymore. They're cages, and I'm the bird that forgot how to fly, or maybe I'm just too scared to try. 3 years ago, my wife and kid died in what they call an accident, a car crash. That's what they said. That's what I believed. But 3 years is long enough to let the truth start bleeding through the cracks. The police files became a bedtime story. They're cold, in different words whispering doubts I couldn't ignore. No faulty brakes, no slicky roads, a quiet, clear night, the kind that doesn't need streetlights or prayers. No drunk driver veering out of the dark. Nothing. And the bodies weren't in. Not really. They told me the crash left unrecognizable. I saw the pictures, but all I saw were lies staring back at me. The kind you can explain, but can feel crawling under your skin. They keep telling me to move on. It was God's will, they say. But as a bitter pill to swallow when the devil is in the details. And now, those details were starting to paint a picture. A picture I couldn't unseen.
Remedy. When it comes to art, one of the greatest challenges for an artist isn't mastering their craft, it's defining it. When you hear a certain chord progression or read the first few lines of a new story, you might recognize the author, even without fully understanding the piece. It always carries their stamp, their signature, like a letter always addressed to the same place. In the world of games, Remedy is a prime example of this distinct identity. The first Remedy game that I played was Control. At the time, I had no idea how deep its lore ran. It wasn't until I finished the game that I realized I only scratched the surface of the so-called Remedy connected universe. That revelation pulled me into an ocean of mystery. One I didn't just explore but also sought to understand. I investigated, uncovered, and studied this vast looping puzzle, only to realize it wasn't a loop at all. It was a spiral, a twisting narrative that begged to be revisited. We don't yet know where we are on the timeline, but we know exactly where it began.
It's not a lake. It's an ocean.
The first Alan Wake game was the gateway that opened the spiral of Remedy connected universes. But before Alan Wake, there was another title. A game that is slowly making its way to the Remedy connected universe, always being referenced indirectly in other games and sharing striking similarities with characters like Alex Casey. At this point, it's hard to deny that Alex Casey is a direct homage to Max Payne. Recently, Remedy announced their next project, remakes of the original Max Payne games. This raised the possibility that Alex Casey and Max Payne might share a connection that goes beyond simply being creations of the same studio.
I was dead tired. I just wanted it to be over. It was all my fault. I'd had this dark place in my head for so long. Sometimes I'd forget the pain was there. Like it was the way you were supposed to feel.
If you had a PlayStation 2 back in 2001, you witnessed one of the golden years of gaming. Titles like Metal Gear Solid 2, Devil May Cry, Grand Theft Auto 3, and Silent Hill 2 were released. Imagine how risky it was to launch a new IP, a fresh idea, in a year filled with such legendary competitors. But Max Payne had something that few of those titles offered. A focus not only on revolutionary gameplay mechanics, but also on a well-structured narrative. Something that was still a novelty back then. A game driven not just by gameplay, but by its story, its characters, its twists, and its dedication to the narrative depth. Coupled with the recent cultural impact of The Matrix, which set the stage for its bullet time mechanic, Max Payne managed to succeed despite being surrounded by some of the greatest hits in gaming history. It earned its title alongside them. Now, while we wait for the Max Payne remakes, let's take a step back 24 years ago. Yes, we are getting old. And dive into, for me, a first-time experience with this hard-boiled story of an undercover NYPD detective who lost his family and now is driven by a singular purpose: avenging them, no matter the cost.
They were all dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger, and then it was over.
A man with nothing to lose. A noir setting in the cold, snowy and gritty streets of New York City, painted with corruption and plagued by a strange, potent, mind-twisting drug. Max Payne doesn't shy away from its dark premise, and it doesn't pull any punches from the very first scene. The game spares no detail and shows no concern for crossing boundaries. This isn't just another Hollywood cliché about a hard-boiled cop going undercover, it dives deeper, unraveling a story that sets its dark, gritty tone from the very start. The game begins where it ends. The police surround the towering building as the camera pans towards its rooftop. Max begins his monologue, reflecting on the end of his journey. The camera closes into his face before the narrative rewinds, pulling you back in time to uncover the chain of events that led to this very moment. Max Payne still has one of the best narratives I ever experienced, and that's not just because of his writing but also its originality. You play as Max Payne, an NYPD detective who's recently become a father. Max decides to turn his life around for his son, a wholesome glimpse into Max as a person, but also a setup for the horrifying shift in the story's tone.
Life was good. The sun setting on a sweet summer's day, the smell of freshly mowed lawns, the sounds of children playing, a house across the river on the Jersey side, beautiful wife and a baby girl. The American dream come true. Honey, I'm home. But dreams have a nasty habit of going bad when you're not looking.
Max comes home after work to find his house in a complete disarray, clear signs of a violent break-in. Grabbing his gun, he cautiously begins to investigate. The phone rings, and a mysterious woman asks if it's Max Payne's residence before abruptly hanging up. Moments later, screams echo through the house. Max encounters armed intruders and is forced to fight them off. But after the dust settles, he's confronted with a grim and life-shattering truth. His family, his wife and newborn child, have been brutally murdered by the home invaders. Devastated, Max screams in anguish and rage. No! A chilling moment that cements the game transition to its gritty neo-noir style. Now, it's payback time. Max Payne's narrative is delivered in three distinct ways: through in-game cutscenes, gameplay moments where Max narrates events or provides clues about the next objective, and the iconic, graphic novel-style cutscenes that the game is praised and remembered for. It's often said that creativity thrives under limitations, and this is one of those cases. The comic book-style cutscenes were born out of the game's tight budget. If you look closely, many of the panels are actually photographs of Remedy employees and their relatives. For example, Max Payne himself was played by Sam Lake, Remedy's creative director and the writer of the game's entire story. A fun little detail: the main antagonist was portrayed by his own mother.
We did a lot of photo shoots already back then, way back when. Frankie the Bat, Nicole Horn, characters from Max Payne. It was rather kind of small time, like let's do them, we just need the reference, we'll paint them over anyway kind of approach. And a lot of the people who, for example, Nicole Horn is actually real life mother of Sam Lake himself, so I don't know if there's anything psychological about it, making the bad guy to be your mother.
The budget constraints sparked creativity, leading to a style that perfectly complemented the dark narrative, especially with Max's narration. James McCaffrey's voice acting was a huge asset to the game, and his loss to the industry is still felt today. His voice echoes as Max's thoughts appear on the screen, each line delivered with cold precision and deep, gravely tone that perfectly conveyed that broken man Max had become. James McCaffrey isn't just a voice, he's the soul of the character. His iconic delivery is instantly recognizable, a signature that from the very first syllable, you can tell it's Max Payne. The rest of the cast also delivers good voice acting that ranges from good to questionable, but after a few playthroughs, it really grew on me. It has a certain charm that, to be honest, enhances the narrative. The way the undercover cop story unfolds is straightforward and easy to follow, with memorable names like Jack Lupino, Mona Sachs, and Vinnie Cogniti. These characters stand out, and Max's inner monologues keep them alive in your mind. Each character has distinct traits that make them unforgettable. The exaggerated hard-boiled names are the cherry on top, strengthening this connection to the gritty world you are navigating. It's brilliantly executed, and the feeling of climbing the mafia ladder, taking down small fish until you catch the big ones, is incredibly rewarding.
Vinny Gognitti was running scared. He could run, but with a bullet in his stomach like a broken bottle of Tabasco, he was quickly running out of time. He knew where his boss was, and I wanted to square things up with Jack Lupino. Gognitti would be moving fast. I don't know about angels, but it's fear that gives men wings.
Before we dive deeper into the gameplay, we need to rewind a bit. Before the game even starts, you have the option to go through a tutorial. This section, a compact linear area, quickly teaches you everything you need to play through the entire game. It even covers small mechanics that are only used a couple times, like shooting a lock on the door to open it. However, the most important thing about the tutorial is how it teaches you to interact with the world. Early on, there is a part where the payphone rings, and the game shows you how to answer it by pressing E. Not long after, you realize that this mechanic isn't just for interacting with marked points of interest, indicated by an exclamation mark. You can also go off the beaten path to interact with objects in the environment. As simple as this sounds, is one of the most core reasons why Max Payne's desolate world feels so rich in depth, despite its cold emptiness. To better demonstrate this, let's return to where we left off, right after Max's tragic loss. The game jumps 3 years into the future, where Max is now working undercover on a case investigating a drug called Valkyr. His first mission takes him to meet his colleague, Alex Balder, also from the NYPD. The setting is an underground train station, empty and eerily silent, with just Max's narration to guide you. Once the game gives you control of the character, you are free to explore and interact with doors and objects, but the level of detail in the environment is impossible to ignore. For example, you could simply follow the trail of blood and the environment storytelling to progress. But if you choose to investigate and take your time, you will find things like being able to open the bathroom tap, flush the toilet, and even turn on the showers. And why does this add so much to the game world? It doesn't progress the narrative, it doesn't affect gameplay directly, and it certainly doesn't change the story, but it makes the world feel believable. I think one of the best and most memorable interactions in gaming back then was the microwave in Half-Life 1. Before heading to your objectives, you could wander around and interact with random objects. And there was this small kitchen with scientists on their lunch break. Among them, it was a microwave with a meal inside. One of the funniest and most rewarding moments was discovering that you could actually heat the food in the microwave. If you heat it for too long, it would explode and the scientists would react. This attention to detail goes beyond just ensuring the level design works. It showcases the care of the developers in crafting the world. How many times do you find yourself wondering, can I do that? And how satisfying it is when the game surprises you with the result. This is what makes the world feel alive. The care that went into coding small interactions like opening locker, triggering a cash register beep, or watching a soda machine dispense an endless string of cans. The world isn't just a place for gunfights, it's a place to explore, to be intrigued by, and the game encourages this from the very beginning. If you're curious enough, you'll discover a hidden shotgun in the closet of the first level, or a secret room in a tutorial section where you're rewarded with a submachine gun for your exploration. These small rewards are the core factor why this game feels so memorable. It's a low-budget game, reusing assets here and there, but it doesn't feel that way. You don't mind. My favorite example is when you have to visit a bar called Ragnarok. It's a nightclub, but it also hides the secret of being a drug lab. There was this really cool moment where I was just exploring the stage and I noticed a guitar lying on the ground. If you walk over it, the guitar makes sounds. Naturally, I kept walking over it, and as I did, I noticed a drum set nearby. My first reaction was to see if I could interact with, and unsurprisingly, I could. But I didn't stop there. There were even 3 microphones framed at the center, and I was curious, but honestly, I wasn't expecting to take it this far. But
Karaoke never was my scene.
it's these details that make every level a vivid memory. Not just because of the standout moments in the well-rounded story, but also due to those small interactions. Interactions that are so rewarding to discover that sometimes you wish there were more. For example, you can shoot a fire extinguisher and watch the white powder splatter everywhere, though it doesn't affect the enemies. There's so much more that could have been implemented if the game had a larger budget, but I'm glad they took their time. They invested the effort in adding those small touches to the game. The attention to detail was so crucial here that I recently learned that each bullet was an actual object in the game. If you pay close attention during gunfights, you could not only hear but also watch the bullet casings gracefully fall to the ground. Every trigger pull carries weight, as you see the bullet trajectory and its impact on the target. The game's advanced ragdoll physics make sure the enemies always react accordingly. The visual feedback is a feast of precision and satisfaction in every shot. Every bullet that sparks out of the barrel feels like a surge of adrenaline. The loud shotgun blasts push enemies back as if they were plastic bags caught in the wind, while the heavy sound of the spent bullet casings hitting the floor amplifies the intensity. The submachine gun provides a great visual example, with each tiny bullet visibly leaving the barrel and finding its target. You can see unused mags scattered through the level as you reload your guns. The satisfying sound of ejecting and feeding bullets never gets old. The bullet holes that paint in the walls with a brand new layout. All the actions have reactions, and you can feel the destruction of your actions, the cost happening right before your very eyes. It's these details that bring so many layers to a game with simple gunplay mechanics. The details enhance a very well designed foundation. With that said, I can say that the gameplay is very simple, but very well executed. You can walk around, roll to the sides and backwards, interact with the environment, jump and shoot everyone in your path. But the tide's turn was the bullet time mechanic. Max Payne has a lot of cinematic references. The most obvious one is The Matrix. But if you go back in time a bit more, there was another huge reference that is just as core.
Another restless night. They say the same scare doesn't work twice, but trauma makes the same scare feel 10 times worse each time. Not a day went by that I didn't dream about the crash. The investigation didn't help, my mind was on overdrive. The files, my morning coffee, and we all know too much coffee never good for the brain. It's been days since I made any progress on the case. I was stuck, a dead end, no way in. A commercial district on Christmas Eve. Every door slammed shut. Didn't help that I was undercover. No backup, all alone, until the phone rang.
But the page refused to turn. The story wasn't done with me.
It was a bad line and a prank call. Someone spotting Saint Babel. Couldn't make sense of it, but I had an overwhelming sense of deja vu, and the caller's voice sounds oddly familiar. There was something disturbingly familiar about the letter before me. It looks like a script from a movie.
You are in a video essay, Max!
The truth was a burning green crack through my brain. Flashes of some guy who looked like me, stuck in a video game, driven by the same thing that kept me going, avenging the death of my wife. It was just a game, but damn if it didn't feel too damn real. I was in a video essay. This is not funny. It was the most horrible thing I could think of. The letter ended with an address, a stamp with a weirdly familiar shape.
John Woo, often regarded as the father of gunfu, became famous for his action movies filled with high-octane sequences, slow-motion gunfights, dramatic action, and his signature style of dual wielding. Watch any Woo's films and you quickly spot the influence of Max Payne. The game's gritty tone, its themes of revenge and betrayal, and its noir setting are all reminiscent of Woo's signature approach. The slow-motion gunfights popularized by The Matrix, a cultural phenomenon, were further cemented in the game world by Max Payne, eventually becoming the series' iconic feature. Bullet time, the mechanic where Max slows time with a press of a button, allows you to dodge bullets while gaining the ability to shoot faster and more accurately than your enemies can react. And let me tell you, there are few things more exhilarating than realizing you just wipe out an entire room full of enemies with a few well-placed shots. It never gets old. Although the gameplay is simple, it never feels repetitive. I'm on a third playthrough, and it's still incredibly satisfying to land headshots with a shotgun up close and blast through a door in slow motion while dual wielding Uzis. The game also has moments that take these straightforward mechanics and encourage you to tackle situations with a bit more creativity. One of my favorite examples perfectly demonstrates this. There's a moment where Max needs to go through a kitchen guarded by heavily armed goons. You can take them out and head downstairs to face 2 more enemies. You could just use bullet time from the stairs or shoot them outright, and that works fine. But after cleaning the room like this, I noticed an opening in the wall that led directly to those 2 enemies. That's when it clicked. So I reload my save, took out the kitchen goons again, and checked my surroundings more carefully. Sure enough, there was one of those kitchen dump waiters with an open hatch. I had a grenade, and you can imagine what happened next. There are many moments like this in the game, where the same core mechanics are applied in unique ways, allowing players to engage with situations that feel both rewarding and refreshing. These moments help break the repetitive pace of simply walking and shooting. They can include cinematic kills triggered by specific actions or creative use of environment to open new paths. This intuitive and unique gameplay experiences set Max Payne apart from other shooters. It stands as its own distinct creation, offering a gameplay identity that feels innovative and memorable. Max Payne is a short 8-hour game with a very compact story that paces flawlessly between 3 different types of cutscenes. Exploration with a detailed world that oozes with style. Besides the wealth of details, serviceable gameplay, the world of Max Payne is what keeps you engaged. You can find televisions that serve as story progression but also have an actual show playing on the TV with dialogue and a twist at the end. Like Hideo Kojima, Sam Lake seems to have a library of movies storing his head. As a true cinema lover, he sprinkles Max Payne with countless references that feel like a heartfelt homages to culturally iconic works like Pulp Fiction. One standout moment happens when Max finds himself standing in the front of a bathroom door. From inside, you can hear the carefree symphony of someone whistling. If you look closely, there's a Uzi resting on the kitchen counter, just steps away from the bathroom door. The rest is pure cinema. The game can get surprisingly meta, especially when it starts incorporating cultural references. For instance, you can overhear guards chatting about Brad Pitt or even discussing The Matrix.
The best movie ending ever? Oh, gotta be Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. A hero's end, going out with guns blazing. Never heard of it. No? Okay, newer stuff then. The Usual Suspects, where Spacey walks out of the police station and suddenly loses his limb. Or hey, 7, where Brad Pitt gets to that head-sized blood-soaked cardboard box.
Now I know. Freaking zombie demons from outer space. Drowning in blood was cool.
Oh, why do I even bother?
These small details and humorous moments fit seamlessly into Max Payne's gritty narrative. Despite its oppressive and dark tone, the game knows when to crack a joke, adding a layer of levity that balances the intensity of the story. The game takes itself seriously enough, but at the same time, it acknowledges that it's a video game. Literally, especially in sections where Max is hallucinating due to the drug injected into his system. These sequences have Max reliving the tragic past of his family, evoking a Silent Hill-like otherworldly vibe. However, in one of these drug-induced trips, Max finds himself inside a video game, even talking about the mechanics that have been mastering since the start of the game. His self-awareness and subtle fourth wall break in this moment were the first steps towards what would become a staple in Remedy's creative direction.
Don't lose it. It's Valk here. The drug. Snap out of it. Try to remember.
It was a bad line in a prank call, someone spouting insane babble. I couldn't make sense of it. But I had an overwhelming sense of déjà vu, and the caller's voice sounded oddly familiar.
And again, the details are what makes this game foundation so good. It starts off strong, very shocking, and then has those brief moments of goofiness. Like when the game shows Max Payne face up close with Sam Lake's making his famous Max Payne expression. This carries over into some of the comic strips, where you have this badass cop delivering crazy one-liners, and on the next page, you see Sam pulling funny faces even in more serious moments. This doesn't hurt the story, instead it reinforces the idea that you are playing a video game. You know that, Remedy knows that, and Max knows that. Max Payne is a unique, story-driven noir hardboiled experience with simply yet intuitive gameplay mechanics. While there aren't many mechanics, the game still managed to create situations that allow them to shine. It's dark, goofy, badass, and sometimes cliché, but that's part of the charm. A high-octane video game, packed with meta-narratives and even mythos that go beyond the surface-level undercover cop story. It's a cultural hit that inspires many games to come. If you have the chance to play it, do it now while you can. Games like this deserve to not only be preserved, but also remembered for what they were and how they're involved with time. Max Payne is a 2001 game that has aged beautifully in many aspects. It's a callback to the 2000s and a perfect starting point for diving into other Remedy titles. So, answering my question from before, was it worth all the effort? It's not about the result, it's about the doing.
The pledge was made, the kind you don't break. Now it was time for the closure. That address on the letter, it called to me, like a song I heard before but couldn't place. I'd never been there, not once. Yet, I knew the way like it was etched in my bones. Like my steps were in mine to take, already mapped out by some unseen hand. Destiny, fate. The kind of poetic bullshit people say when they are scared of the truth. The truth that we were just pieces on a board. Characters in a story already written. But I am no character. At least, that's what I told myself. Funny thing is, I wasn't sure if I believe it. We all come to a story with hopes and expectations, searching for meaning, for closure. But sometimes, hope is the better lie, the kind you can leave with it, the kind that doesn't crumble under the weight of the truth. 3 years, that's how long it took to finally stare down the monster who took everything from me. My body betrayed me, trembling like a leaf in a storm, but anger kept my hands steady. The gun was an extension of my rage, and the bullet was a freight train with one destination. The barrel lined up perfectly, right where it needed to be. I waited for this moment for so long. And now, it was all over. The bullet screamed through the air, a punctuation mark to the end of my sentence. But the page refused to turn. The story wasn't done with me yet. Casey stood in the middle of it all, an unwielding pawn in a narrative too big for either of us. He was my creation, pulled from the depths of my imagination, but the lines written for him now felt foreign, as if someone else held the pen. The rules were clear, etched into the fabric of this twisted reality, immutable, unwielding. They weren't mine to break, not without tearing apart everything they held together. The structure was a cage, the foundation a trap, but the only way out was forward, to follow the path I laid. If I faltered, if I left this unfinished, the darkness at the heart of the story would break free, would devour the entire existence, reshaping it its own image. The story was alive, hungry, and it demanded an ending. I had to write it, had to see it through, because if I don't, the story, with it is alive.
An undercover cop descending into the depths of hell to avenge his family. Or just another character, like countless others, created to serve a purpose. A selfish purpose. Every word the writer types becomes another action the character must take. No questions, no deviation, just blind obedience to the rules of the story. And what about us? Are we characters in a story too? Are our lives guided by invisible lines written in ink that pens both our triumphs and our inevitable end? How do we know if we are the protagonists of our own tale or just secondary players in someone else's? Who's writing this? Who's pulling the strings. Stories are built on characters, and characters must walk the path laid before them. The hero's journey, bound by constraints, tethered to the timeline. They follow the rules because that's the only way to reach the end. And the end always comes here in Night Springs.
Hey guys, Jules here. Welcome to the final section of the video. This section is basically just to thank you for watching everything, and of course to thank my Patreon supporters. If you don't know, now I have a Patreon and it is 100% free. You don't need to pay anything or, so just sign up. There I will be posting gameplay, maybe some extended reviews or drafts from other videos or videos that never went live. So yeah. A Patreon is this more unfiltered, unedited version of myself, so yeah, I'll be posting there more frequently now. So yeah, stay tuned for that if you want content. Extra content is on Patreon. Also, I want to take this moment to thank my Patreon supporters that actually put some money into my work, which is... well, it's insane for me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much to actually help my work in this kind of level, because you guys don't need to. But yeah, all the money will go towards buying games for reviews, things for the channel itself, right? And yeah, guys, thank you so much. You guys are just amazing. Right? Thank you so much for believing me and for helping me make this thing that I'm doing right now, real. Thank you. Also, I want to thank my friend for actually helping me with the outro of Night Springs. That was amazing, actually. I had a friend of mine that actually helped me first time on the Alan Wake video, but I didn't want to bother him. And also, I like to collab with different people. I think I don't do this enough in the channel. I think I need to do it more because it's so fun to do it. And he was also a fan of Remedy games, so I was really happy to have him on board of this project. So yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much for that. I really enjoyed the intro. And also, while I'm talking, his work will be appearing on screen. He's a 3D artist, so guys, if you need anything from him, or if you want to follow his work or maybe commission something, all his links will be in the description. He's an amazing 3D artist. He knows about game development as well, so yeah, just give him a follow, and if you need anything else, just DM him. He's amazing, right? And one last thing, I will be live streaming really soon. So I want to organize some stuff to start live streaming again. It's been a while since I do that, but I want to do that. I just need to see if I can live stream on my main channel. I just want to see if I don't lose any engagement and anything on my videos if I start live streaming on my channel. Otherwise, I will start a new channel just for live streams. But I will keep you guys posted on the community tab on my main channel. And of course, there's a link of my Patreon and my Twitter as well, so I will keep you posted there as well as I update the live stream things. I'm just adjusting things before live streaming again, but yeah, I'm very excited and really miss streaming. Anyway, that was it for today. Thank you so much again. Thank you so much for my Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for my friend that helped me making this video. And yeah, I think I see you guys in the next video. So stay awesome, stay safe. Bye.